Association, Dr. Clement Park. Doc, good morning to you, and I hope you're well.
Sana, let me say a happy new year to you, to all the listeners of the one and only award-winning, transparent, honest, bold Radio Gold, and to say good morning to all listeners. I say so because it's been a while
Yes.
since I had the opportunity to engage with you on important national issues. I think most of last year I was battling a debilitating voice condition. But by the grace of God, there has been significant improvement.
Okay.
And so hopefully, once I'm beginning today, we would continue as we've always done over the past several years.
And a happy new year to you too, and our condolences to you on the loss of your father. Our sincere condolences.
Well, what can we say? That is a journey, a trip that we are all bound to embark upon. At least the late Pastor John Azundem Apak. I guess now people know I'm the son of a pastor. At least he paid his dues. He did his best. He was called to glory at age 81, just about 2 weeks after celebrating his 81st birthday.
Oh, 2 weeks after the celebration.
Yes. And I was privileged to have been in the region on an assignment to Navrongo Secondary School 2 days before his passing. So the evening before he was called to glory, I was with him. We spent about 3 hours discussing a number of issues, only to be told the morning before I returned to Accra on that fateful 4th November that he was taken ill around 4 a.m. I sent my driver to pick him up to the hospital, hoping that I'll go there and then see what could be done. But God had other plans. In less than 30 minutes after he had been taken to the hospital, he passed to glory. So he wasn't sick. He wasn't bedridden. I mean, he had even walked me to my car, opened the door for me against all my protestations, and indicated to me how fit he was by the grace of God. Hardly did I know that these were going to be the last moments. But we give God glory. And I remember the prayer he prayed for me, including calling on God to open my voice. And miraculously, since then, my voice condition has been improving. So we thank God for his life, and we are grateful for his contribution, including contributing me to the Republic of Ghana and to my party and to His Excellency's government and my siblings, my younger siblings, my immediate younger brother, Professor Daniel Apak, is also the Dean of Students at UCC. So he's done his part, and it's time to rest. It's more of a celebration.
May he so continue to rest in peace.
Amen.
Now let's turn to the issue of the minority press conference. Of course, we've had opportunity of speaking to the Director General of NACA. They are saying that, assuming that they even put together the content in the manual, they put together the manual. The NACA had a job to do to ensure that the things that are in there are consistent with the values the NDC spoke about whilst in opposition. That these things being used in the schools and speaks to your consistency. your inconsistency. What do you say in response to that?
First of all, let's set the foundation for this conversation. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the NDC took over the reins of governance of this republic on 7th January 2025. He appointed his ministers, including my Minister Harun Idrisu, Minister for Education, and my good self. I think my minister started in February. I joined him later on around April, formally. In that time that we have been in office, we have not introduced a new curriculum, not at the basic school level, not at the junior high school level, not at the senior high school level. So the question to ask in all honesty is this. If we didn't introduce a curriculum, if we have not changed a curriculum, how is it that those who introduced the curriculum and superintended over the preparation of associated material, in this case, teaching and learning material, books and teacher manuals, and turn around and seek to blame the group that has not introduced a new curriculum for unacceptable content discovered in a teacher manual which was developed to go with the curriculum that they introduced. Look, the Minister for Education yesterday commented on this issue. And that is why I've chosen to highlight and amplify. Because we had made the decision that we would allow the agency responsible to speak to this matter, also as part of our reset agenda, where institutions, agencies must be allowed to work. This wasn't even the case in the previous dispensation. Everything was done by the ministry, by GES, NACA. All the agencies didn't even exist, figuratively speaking. Senna, I listened to the minorities press conference. And the clear insincerity, the hypocrisy, duplicity, the double standards, the shamelessness was on display. When this issue came up, the Director General of NACA and the chair of the governing board both spoke to it. They admitted that this was something that slipped through. It was lapse, which they apologized for. They had indicated to us that even before this matter came public, they had become aware of it. A remedial action had been taken, including a withdrawal recall of the about 750 pieces of the said manual. And at the very paragraph, that definition of gender, which became the source of this controversy, had been dealt with. The wholesome revised manual had been duly uploaded for use by the teachers expected to teach the subject in question. So, for the minority to seek to make the claims that they make on the back of a matter that had already been resolved exposes them. Because if we are to blame, as Minister indicated, if we are to blame and to call out and hold people accountable, in as much as the current leadership of NACA bears some blame, and they have admitted so, the previous leadership of NACA really would bear the bigger blame because they superintended over the new curriculum based on which the manual was produced. And remember, this manual was produced for the 2024-25 academic year. Now, on the basis of this, which of course we have said, Minister has said, that NACA takes full responsibility, even with just the one definition that was deemed to be unwholesome. Why would they expect be granted free pass when they superintended over what came through that we worked on and missed this particular content that generated controversy?
Mm.
And they use that as a basis to try and suggest that somehow our party, our government, is trying to smuggle. I believe that is one of the words they used.
Mm.
Smuggle LGBTQR content into the educational system, knowing fully well that that is not the case. Then they say, oh, because of this, it means that we don't have the political will to do what we said in opposition, and that we should be apologizing to Ghanaians. Have they forgotten that if we are talking about political will, a party, a government that showed analysis in broad daylight when it had the best opportunity to deal with the bigger issue of using law to prohibit any and everything related to LGBTQ. It was the Akufo-Addo MPP government of which in Tim Fojo, Vincent Asefua were a part of. They were deputy ministers. Didn't we see how the then MPP calls members of their party in parliament who were initially part of the members of parliament who brought forth private members' bill to recuse themselves, leaving only Reverend Intim Fojo with the NDC MPs as window dressing? When that private members' bill eventually passed, didn't we all witness the shameful, shambolic maneuvering initiated by Akufo-Addo and his government using the court system to literally prevent himself from assenting to it to become law? So we know the history. We know the parameters. We know the dynamics. And that is why the Minister for Education yesterday was emphatic that NACA takes full responsibility. NACA has taken the needed remedial measures, and he went further to direct and to inform all of us of what the standard definition of a man, a woman, and sex ought to be. A man is a man as in determined by the sex of the individual at birth, biological. There is no in between. There couldn't have been any better definition of gender. And there can't be any better definition, wholesome, in consonance with our Ghanaian values, our traditions, our culture, our beliefs, than the definition that is based on one's biological sex as determined at birth when you come out of your mother's womb. That is what we believe in. That is what we are going to teach our children. That is what is contained in the revised teacher's manual. And anyone who from yesterday uses the now proscribed version of the teacher's manual as a guide would be in breach and will be held duly liable. Effectively, that unwholesome version, as polluted by that unacceptable definition of gender, is banned.
I see. They're asking for two remedial measures. The first one is that you say NACA takes full responsibility for what has happened. They said the best way to take responsibility is by the Director General resigning. Secondly, they want a transparent process of looking at the content relation of, I don't know, whether sex education or something. They want to look a comprehensive view which is bipartisan, which means they want to be involved too. Would you grant both?
Well, as you know, I am not clothed with the authority to make decisions or to grant them their wish. But given where I sit, I don't think that it is for them to make such demands. The appointing authority is abreast with developments, has followed the national discourse and conversation, is aware of everything you and I are discussing. And if it pleases the appointing authority to keep the board chair and the director general, that will be the case. If the opposite is the desire of the appointing authority, that will also happen. On the matter of bringing on board stakeholders, I truly don't see the need for that. I say so because on the back of what has occasioned this discourse, the internal processes had already been triggered to ensure that content, either in teacher manuals or books, offensive to Ghanaian sensibilities, to our history, culture, traditions, and beliefs, are purged. So I truly do not see the need for this call. But we live in a democracy, and everyone has the democratic right to express his or her opinion, including the minority. I mean, you know, under the leadership of His Excellency John Amani Mahama, the country is being reset. Freedom of speech is being encouraged. In fact, the president himself and the rest of us, his appointees, we encourage dissenting opinions. The days when even teachers could not speak out to point out challenges, to draw attention to shortcomings and issues affecting teaching and learning, now belong to the dustbin of negative history. So we welcome them as Ghanaians with the right to speak, but we reserve the right to act based on our own independent assessments and evaluations in the national interest. In situations where what they call us to do are in consonance with our common aspirations as a nation, clearly that will be done in the common interest of the people of Ghana.
But do you think there's a basis for that call for the removal of the Director General?
Can you repeat that?
Do you think there's basis for the call for the removal of the Director General?
Well, as I said, if it had turned out that no action had been taken prior to this issue becoming public, and if it was the case that when the issue became public, there was an attempt to dodge responsibility, then we could be having a different conversation. But when responsibility is taken, remedial measures administered, and even apologies rendered, what was very, very rare in the previous administration. Clearly, we ought to be able to look at the bigger picture and then move on.
Doc, thank you. Thank you very much for speaking to us this morning.
You are welcome, Senator.
Dr. Clement Park is Member of Parliament for Bosa South, Deputy Minister for Education, joining us on the line. And of course, the final funeral rites, funeral arrangements for his father. He'll be laid in state. Pastor John Azundema Park, who was 81, passed on 4th November 2025. He'll be laid in state and filing pass Saturday, 31st January 2026, time 8:30 a.m. Venue, Nat Hall, Bogatanga. There's a memorial and burial service that will follow the same day, 9 a.m., same venue, Nat Hall. Interment will be at the family house, Doninga, Bosa South. Attire is black and white. Like I said, they are celebrating the impact of his father.